Hi. Well, it's my pleasure today to talk to Roger Dane. He's trumpeter and flugelhornist, and he will be leading the Roger Dane Tintet, the new Louisville Jazz Ensemble at the Melwood Arts Center on Sunday, July 30th at 7 p.m. as part of the Louisville Jazz Society's signature series. Hi, Roger. It's a real privilege to talk to you today about your career and your band.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Well, you've been playing big band music for a long time, including a spell leading your orchestra at the Comedy Caravan back in the late 90s and early aughts, right?
Yeah, about 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you get interested in listening and playing to this type of big band music?
My father was a musician. He was a great singer. He studied opera in New York City. He just picked up the saxophone as in the 20s, and he also picked up piano like I did. He and I we had no lessons. We just picked it up, wound up playing a lot of music jobs. Piano is, popular instrument.
Yeah.
Playing pop music, the tunes of the day, so to speak.
Right, right. So, was there any particular big bands, musicians who were particularly influential in shaping the kind of stuff you do now?
Uh, as a child growing up,
And early in your career, and as you were doing music education at U of L?
well, my father was into jazz, and so I was too. And I got in at the end of the what's so-called big band era. After World War II, big bands that traveled, did dances, that was phasing out. And but there were, you hear about those era, you're thinking about Duke Ellington, Count Basie. Glenn Miller was real big in the beginning of the war. That were
Yeah.
very popular, but there were so many. I mean, you can't name them all. Uh, Benny Goodman was the king of swing in the 30s, and but around the time of the 50s, big bands were struggling, but you still had Woody Herman and Stan Kenton and bands that kept going. Buddy Rich was the most uh, made the most money as a sideman drummer for Harry James, who played had a band together his whole life. He was really big in World War II. In the early 60s, he was still playing with Harry James in Las Vegas, where they played a lot. He made $1,000 a week. He was the highest paid sideman of his day. And then he got a big band, went a long time. Maynard Ferguson, great trumpet player. Everybody was doing anything that had any talent. I was into, and so were everybody else that was playing.
Yeah. Sounds like a diverse range of big band styles you were listening to.
Excuse me.
It sounds like a diverse range of big band styles that you were listening to.
Yeah, but they all came from the same place. We were trying to learn. Everybody learns from who's doing it when you're growing up.
Right. So, so the kind of what kind of tunes can the audience expect to hear on July 30th?
Well, we call tunes that are written for shows and just pop tunes. We call those, if they last a period of time, they become a classification called standards. In
Right.
other words, well recorded by many singers or players, they become standards. We'll be doing some standards, but we'll be doing a little Dixieland, which is pretty old. We'll
Yeah.
be doing swing that still exists today, but it really became the pop music of the day in the Depression in the 30s. In the 40s, there was another revolution called bebop, and that went on for a long time. and it's like a tree, grows a branch and has another couple branches. It's an ever-growing tree that has many ears. Used about every 10 years, a different style. In the 70s, funk music, came in,
Yeah.
and we're going to be doing some of that too. In the 80s, there were a lot of younger guys came in that didn't, there used to be funk or free, and just playing free didn't reach a lot of people, except maybe the artists. But the young people wanted to play jazz. It went back to playing standards. A good example of that would be Wynton Marsalis.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he was a guy who could play classical too. So that's about it, if that answers your question.
So it's a real gamut.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of different styles on July 30th. We're going to hit a lot of things.
Right. I see Jeanette Kays is playing with you as she's going to be singing. Any particular songs going to feature her?
Yeah, about 6, maybe 7. I'm not sure. It's an hour and a half concert, and I probably got about 2 hours of music scheduled. So I know we're not going to get to everything, but we'll be doing a lot of Jeanette, at least 6.
Great, great. Well, can you tell me a little bit about some of the players that are playing with you in addition to Jeanette?
Yeah, I'm really excited about our 2 saxes. Hunt Butler is probably the most first called. If a Broadway show is coming, it's on the road and it's coming at the Art Center. He's the first call woodwind because he can play any sax. He plays tenor sax with us. He's a great flute player. And he can also play clarinet. He can play anything except the double reeds, which is oboe and bassoon.
Hmm.
Anything else, he's got covered. He's a great reader. He's just a great player. We have a young guy who went to White House named Andy Oberhausen. He left the area. I think he spent time in Cincinnati and Chicago. He's just recently come back, I think within the last year. He's starting to get his name out there. He's really good. He plays alto sax with us. He also plays clarinet, and I think he plays a little flute also.
Hmm.
Doug Finke is our tenor trombone player. He has a big Dixieland background. He's also the elder statesman. He's a little older than me. And he's been around. He's got a lot of experience. He's also a great writer and arranger. I had a sub for the leader of it's called the Don Krekel Orchestra, the DKO.
Yeah.
The leader was tied up, so I had to do the band, and Doug was in that band also, and he's quite tied to the U of L thing. But he's a great trombone player. There's another bass trombone player I have called Elmer White. He's a young guy. He's doing fine. Everybody in town knows Steve Cruz. He's my
Oh yeah.
player. He's been around for years. Currently, he's at Jack Fry's restaurant in the Highlands. A bass player that I use. I had 8 years I played piano at Vincenzo's restaurant on 5th and Main. And Jenna Mattingly was my bass player, one of my bass players there. And our drummer is Tim Turner, who was away from music, I think, for a while until he retired from trucking. And he's getting back into the thing. Now, we also have a guitar player named Josh Parker. He's pretty young and he's doing great. Now, is that everybody? We have 10 people. Did I name 10?
Yeah, I think you got everybody. You got a percussionist with you, Wes Greer playing as well.
Wes Greer was helping us out when people couldn't make it. He was like our sub drummer, right?
Gotcha.
If he's still doing it, he's on the road, I had him scheduled to play and share the drums with Tim, but I think he went out on the road with a British country band, if you can believe that.
Hmm. So this is a pretty powerhouse group of musicians you got here. How do you
Yeah,
how do you work out the arrangements for a group this talented? And who do you focus? Who do you feature?
everybody. We feature everybody, but not on every song.
Right.
This group was born out of a 1950s, 60s octet called the Dave Pell Octet. You can look them up on YouTube. They were a lot of alumni from the Les Brown Big Band. And Dave Pell was a great businessman, played tenor sax, and he arranged. They have many records, CDs still out there, and those arrangements were all for sale, and people wrote them out. A good friend of mine from Lexington, Tom Simpth, wrote them all out, and he sent them to about 20 friends across the nation. And we started with that. And everybody, I used to play in rock bands from Nashville. And when it was like they had, there were straight dance, pop stuff, Earth, Wind, and Fire, all that.
Yeah.
But if I had to play softer stuff for dinner hour before the dance, they would play Dave Pell stuff, and it's so musical because it was a West Coast Los Angeles thing, and they played that style. They had the greatest players from the West Coast, and they had the greatest arrangers, and it's a great thing. The solos are short, it's to the point, great writing, and so it started like that. After a couple of rehearsals, I'm more into contemporary. I love that. I'm not putting it down, but I knew I wanted to do other stuff. So most of the arrangements you're going to hear, I wrote.
Ah. So starting with the Dave Pell stuff and then moving beyond it.
Yeah, clear up to Michael Jackson.
Well, that's great. I mean, it really sounds. I was expecting when I talked to you that I'd be talking more about, Duke Ellington, Count Basie. That's clearly part of it, but there's so much more going on here.
We're doing two Duke Ellington tunes. We're doing some Basie. But yeah, bebop. The head probably the biggest two of those people were Dizzy Gillespie on trumpet and Charlie Parker on alto sax. But it has grown. We're doing contemporary jazz. McCoy Tyner, who played with John Coltrane,
Oh
just
yeah,
died. We're doing some of his material. We're doing a Tom Harrell, who's a great trumpet player, still living.
yeah.
And he has not only been one of the great trumpet players in improvisation and jazz background, but he is also now, when you go hear him live, he does all his stuff.
Right. He's a great writer.
Original compositions, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I say, we're doing some pop medley kind of things where we'll take two pop tunes and make a medley out of it. And we have a Dixieland tune that it was actually done by Dave Pell, but it's traditional. Dixieland had a lot of church in it. It had a little, you know, two beat jazz, and it has its own style. And it also, everything evolves in music and nothing stands still.
Well, it's not jazz if it stands still, is it?
Well, classical either.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think even Beethoven, you probably would have loved it, but I don't think he would imagine some of the things that the 20th century had. And that's only a few hundred years from him.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. I was just reading But Beautiful, the book about jazz. I can't remember the author's name. And he says that jazz just moves so quick, and the big bands have been impacted by that as well.
Yeah, when the big band era went to sort of the fading out of the traveling big bands, you know where it went? It went into the studios, TV. when
Right.
you know, all the people were tired of traveling anyway. If they had enough talent and connections, they wound up on TV, like the Johnny Carson show, you know, or
Doc
Murray.
Severinsen.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
and he took over. When he started, it was a guy named Skitch Henderson, and he was
Right.
a British guy, but he wound up with it after being in Skitch's band about 10 years. Steve Allen, you know, all those guys, they had studio bands for themselves. They still do.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Late
true.
night TV, they're you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this sounds like it's going to be a great show.
Have a lot of variety, and it'll be serious with
Yeah.
a smile.
Well, good, good. Well, I'm so glad to have a chance to talk to you about it today, and to have our Louisville Jazz Society members a little preview of what they're going to hear on July 30th. So, just a reminder that the Roger Dane Tentet, the new Louisville Jazz Ensemble, will be playing at the Melwood Arts Center in the Art Gallery on Sunday, July 30th at 7 p.m.
That's
Thanks so
great.
much for Thanks so much for talking to me today, Roger.
I sure appreciate it too.